everyone. This is our first podcast. We've been talking before we started recording here and bantering about with the names that we might choose. We're being, as witty as we possibly can. I'm caffeinated. I don't know. How are you, Tracy? Are you caffeinated already this
I'm
morning?
caffeinated and sparkling. You know my
Yes.
motto. There's always
And
room
I
for
feel
more
bad,
beer.
everyone. So here we are starting out, and I do not have anything sparkly and beautiful, but I do have a tiara that I may, show everyone in podcast two, in episode
Yes.
two. So you're very sparkly and holiday-esque at the moment.
Which fits the season, right? We're in between Christmas and New Year's, so I figure I've got a little sparkle sweater on and still the Christmas glasses. So
That's right. That's right. So we're recording this a little bit ahead. Both of us have some travel in January, so we're getting this going for the 2024. And we've done this before a little bit, but we didn't call it a podcast. We worked through an entire plotting series last year, and some of it was on the written blog or written instructions and tutorials, and the other stuff was recorded in sort of a banter format that got a lot of really positive feedback. So here we are.
we are the WisMissus podcast, reading, writing, and roaming around Wisconsin, the Midwest, and the great beyond.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. I think it works wonderfully well. The WisMissus. I think this is fun. And obviously, we enjoy talking with each other. So we're just going to bring you all along for the ride as though we're like hanging out together wherever we might be. Right now, we're each in our own homes. Maybe at some point we'll record some of them, together, where we're not like both zooming in. So,
And we've done that. We have done that together at Highway Harry's in Johnson Creek.
yeah, we could just do remote recording there like once a month at Highway Harry's and become sort of a fixture there and, grab a cocktail at about like 2 p.m. and oh, maybe not.
I highly recommend Highway Harry's. Yes, it's a great place.
If you know where that is. Yeah, we recommend.
And I was, speaking of writing and just the whole concept, it's Johnson Creek. A local told me it's not Johnson Creek, it's Johnson Creek.
Yeah, it's like when people say names in Wisconsin wrong and you're like, oh, yeah, you're not from here, are you?
Right.
Johnson Creek. Yeah, well, we're both Wisconsin gals, born and bred right here in Wisconsin. We've maybe lived, have you lived anywhere else ever?
No.
I can't, except for my semester abroad. I've always lived in Wisconsin. I've never lived anywhere else. So
I've never imagined myself. I've traveled a lot. My brother and sister both moved away, never came back, but I have never wanted to live anywhere else. And I don't know what this is, but I really have never. I've always loved it here. I've loved the people. I love the climate. Most of the time. I've thrived here and I highly recommend the Midwest.
I do too. So I travel a lot and I'm always very, very happy to come home. And in fact, although it might be fun to do a podcast sometime on moving back to your small town, the thing that you say as a teenager, you're never going to do, like, I'm out of here, I'm going to go to college and never come back. Well, I came back. And so I live adjacent. I'm out in the rural area, but I live adjacent to the small town I grew up in. And when we had the decision to make, right, to raise kids and decide we're going to be close to one set of grandparents that we could, at least that was feasible, we thought you better make that possible because, family matters. And it was nice to be close, with my parents, with the kids. So,
well, and I grew up in Madison, and at the time I could ride my bike for it was about 10 minutes. And I could be out in the countryside to a little horse stable where I had a horse. And I couldn't wait I was always a horse girl growing up. I couldn't wait to get out and live in the country. And that's the way I've always been. And here I am living in the country. And I could have a horse here if I wanted to, but
you have enough space to have a horse if you want.
Right. That's a little more responsibility that I can do right now.
Yeah, we do too. I live in the middle of what is sometimes a cornfield, depending upon the time of year.
Yes. Right. And I love it. The whole backyard inspired my first book. Yes. And so I just, I wouldn't have it any other way. And hopefully we're here for this is it, and I wouldn't change a thing about it. So.
Well, and I joke about that a lot. And what's interesting is, you get varying responses in the publishing industry when you explain that you live in a rural area. Like upstate New York's okay, because they understand upstate New York, or different places, but sometimes Midwest, rural areas, farm country, because we're kind of in farm country, I am anyway, is not well understood. And I think that, I've come across biases at times. I don't want to, jump into our first podcast with overly whatever statements, but it's an interesting thing where there is at times a little bit of a bias toward, whether or not you're going to be a good writer or a professional writer or whatever, because you're not from one of the hubs, right? The more, populated places in this country.
Well, and that's an extremely good point, and I think that is worthy of an entire podcast. And the one thing I don't, I shouldn't probably say this, but they call Door County like the New Hamptons. So, the Midwest is being discovered, and I'm not sure that I want it to be discovered,
And
but
this is the point where you say, do I tell people my favorite place to go in
I
Door
know.
County? Do I want to keep
I
it to
know.
myself?
I know. It's like, okay, only everybody else, people from Wisconsin, you can listen, nobody else, you'll have to turn it off.
We're not telling. No.
Our favorite lakes and our favorite supper clubs and our
Yes,
favorite, parks. I don't know if we should reveal that. So
I know. We're all thinking that wait line's going to get so long at that best fish fry place up in Door County now.
exactly.
We're bad. Oh,
So,
no, but I do love to live here. And there's just an interesting quantity of incredible writers in this state.
it, yeah, and I write mystery. Well, I write romantic comedies as well, but I write mysteries. And the number of talented, award-winning mystery writers from Wisconsin is amazing. It's a long list and it's getting longer. I think it's because we have interesting people. We have fabulous seasons that can affect the plot. We have wonderful historic locations that can affect the plot. And we have a lot of quirky people that you can read about that makes for interesting reading. And it's not out of context. It's like, that's who we are. We're one of the last unique cultures, I think, on earth, and we're proud of it, and we laugh about it, and we're willing to talk about it.
Yes.
And it can lead to some really interesting characters and unusual situations. That's my
Yep.
theory about why we have so many great mystery writers here.
I would definitely throw Minnesota and the UP in with that too.
Yeah.
I would.
Oh, yeah.
And, and I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway, because I can't stop myself, is we have an inordinate number of serial killers from Wisconsin. So
Well,
I know a lot of thriller writers from Wisconsin too, or the Midwest.
so, but yeah, it's true. We do have some, unfortunately, we have some of those people.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know, maybe we just know about them because we're from here and we paid attention to that. But yeah, that has been pointed out. I've been at other places. I've been in conferences in other states and people will bring that up. Usually that's when we're in a conversation with people who are writing thrillers or true crime or whatever. So.
Well, we drive up north and we pass Plainfield, the sign for Plainfield, Wisconsin, right there.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. That's not maybe our claim to fame.
Yes. Let's talk about something more positive, like finding an agent.
Is that more positive? Is that more positive? It could be more positive. We hope the end of this journey is a positive outcome.
I don't know. You may want to take out that segue from serial killer to literary agent.
I'll leave that in now. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. So I'm in the middle of an agent search. And one of the interesting things is that I'm bringing everyone along on this journey with these a series of YouTube short videos. Those are 60 seconds long. And I've been doing one a week. Now, I haven't done one this week because truly there is nothing happening right now. I got a couple of rejections right over like the holiday weekend when I know agents were catching up on their reading, when they had a little downtime. But basically, December is really, really dull and slow. And except for agents who are, catching up, anything you have submitted in December is going to sit there until January for sure to be read.
And I had an email from a particular agent, and she told us that she was catching up, I think, from her pitches from August.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. So the earliest ones I sent in were September. I want to say like the latter half of September. And some of those still don't have a response yet. And so I have queried 46 agents. I want to say about 28 have responded. There are another 27 or 8 or so that are closed right now, who I would love to submit to, but they may or may not open up in January. I'll keep an eye on them. That also includes, though, agents who are only open by referral. For what that means is you need to know someone who's represented by that agency to refer you. Or some of them also include in that like phrase, if you've met me at a conference and you can submit. And if you're a writer and you've been going to conferences, you know what that means. If you go to a conference and you meet an agent and they're on the faculty, you often have the ability to submit to them beyond the rules that they normally have on their websites, right, for agents.
And you had to have picked agents who allowed simultaneous submissions?
Yeah, there's one agent in particular who doesn't, who is an amazing agent, and I would love to be represented by her. But I think that, well, one, I'm not getting any younger here, and we've talked about this. The publishing process is very slow. Even if I were to get representation this week from an agent and sign on with them, and they didn't have anything that they wanted me to edit in the manuscript, and it went out on submission right away in January, if it got picked up even immediately, it would not even be published in 2024. At this point, I'm not even sure it'd be a 2025 spring like list, early in the year. It might even be the second half of 2025 that it would come out. So the publishing process is very slow when you're starting with agent search, and then that agent has to do an editor search, and then the publication process is molasses.
Have you pitched agents specifically not acquiring editors at publishing houses? You just
Yeah, although let's talk about strategy for a minute. That's a really good question. I have this list of agents, and the way I did this is I went to Publishers Marketplace, which you need subscription to get in there. And not everyone in the system, agents, editors, not everybody reports their deals there. So, but it's a good starting point. A lot of agents do. And I sorted by the top 100 young adult agents. The manuscript I'm submitting is young adult. And also top 100 middle grade agents, because I have other manuscripts that I would want to have considered later that are in the middle grade market. So I don't want an agent who only does YA and up, like into the adult market. I want someone who also does other younger manuscripts for middle grade. So I overlaid those, created a list and a hierarchy in terms of their rankings. And the rankings are based on the number of deals they've made in those categories in the last 12 months.
Wow. So you're picking, that's the hot list.
It is. And why am I going with that top list? So I have successfully independently published before. The process doesn't scare me, particularly for young adult novels. I know I can find my audience for that. However, middle grade's a little tougher. So the only reason I'm looking for an agent now is that with the gatekeepers that exist for middle grade books, parents, teachers, librarians, they tend to pay more attention to traditionally published book lists. Well, I can do marketing for middle grade books. I just know it's a harder process, and it'll take more time to get traction with the books. I may end up independently publishing all of it, but I'm going to give this a shot. So I have like the top agents, and then I am going to, if that's I will let that run its course, right, for a few months. Then I'm going to start querying a few publishing houses that also do middle grade, because I'm trying to establish a relationship, right, with an entity that likes my writing that might be interested in the middle grade too.
And then your comps. So if you're pitching literary agents, your comps then were traditionally published books, correct?
Yes, they all were. Now, if it was I wouldn't say I would never comp an independently published book, but it would have to be something that was a bestseller.
Yeah. So it makes sense. If you're looking
or well known.
or well known, if
Yeah.
to me, it makes logical sense. If you're pitching a literary agent to be in traditional publishing, that you would pick comps that would be traditionally published as well. I mean, the logic works for me. And then now, where did you find your comps?
Comps are a hard process. And what we'll do is we'll make sure to put in a link to some of the articles that help you learn how to find comps. But you have to think about where on the shelf your book lives. So my murder mystery, it's a murder mystery suspense novel, if you will. And
Paranormal elements, right?
And it has some light paranormal elements. Yeah. So it's not like heavy paranormal. We're not talking about shifters or vampires or, massive elements of magic or anything like that. It's firmly set in the in the real world with just a touch of paranormal. And that made it really tricky to find comps. So I had to run through a lot of different things. And sometimes the comps, I mean, nothing's perfect. So it can be, in the vein of, or with the elements, the paranormal elements of this, but like the family secrets drama of this. So I did a little bit of that, like cobbling together. I ended up with a list though of probably about 10 comps that work. That took so long. Oh my gosh.
One
It was
thing
a
I can
process.
recommend is I love to use Literature Map. It's a place to start, and it's
Yes.
just www.literaturemap.com, and then you put in a name of a title, and it gives you comparable work. And then you still have to go out and do the legwork and read it and see if it works, but it's a
Yes.
place to start.
Well, and either you love or hate Amazon, but like the Amazon search engine is optimal. So once you start getting some lists, you can go over there and look at the description, and then you can look at the also bots as well. Or if you like this, the suggestions at the bottom of the book listing page, that might help you find people, authors and books you would just not have been aware of.
It's just shortcuts, right? Because
Oh, yeah.
this process can take so long.
Oh,
And
and
again,
that's
we aren't getting any younger. So the
seriously,
shortcuts, the advice, the ability to say, look, these are the tips that helped me. I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's what
yeah.
we want to do. Is in addition to laugh and talk about books, and my bio line is I write books and stories for readers who want to laugh and escape. But if we can support people who love to read that, and also writers who seek to do that for those readers, I mean, that's why we're here.
Oh, for sure. And here's the deal. We all know and both of us know so many good authors who haven't had the chance to show the world their work. And it's a tragedy because they deserve to be published. And they're just beautiful stories out there waiting to be found. And if this journey helps other people find their way to publication, that would make us so happy if this anything that we do here in this podcast is to support other authors and laugh a little bit. And by the way, a shout out for your book, Model Suspect. I had to try to stop myself from laughing because I read late at night and I did not want to wake my husband up. And I was trying to not chuckle louder. I mean, and that's not often that a book makes me laugh like that. So,
Oh,
and very, very, very good. We all need that. We all need that.
we all need a good laugh. I mean, I do look at the world in a little bit of a different way sometimes.
And you know what? I
No.
think that's good. I think that's very good for our mental health to be
Yes,
able to do
yes,
that.
right? Life is just the
So,
older you get, the more serious it gets, and you just realize, wait a minute, I got to take a breath. I got to laugh.
yes, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. It's
yeah,
healthy, very healthy.
yeah.
So I'm in the
Oh,
middle of this process. I brought everybody along with those YouTube shorts. We'll link to
yeah.
that as well in the supporting materials. And it's not fun. I mean, I've had some videos, and I know you've seen them too, where I'm like, huh, yeah, I got like 8 rejections this week. Yay, me.
One more. What about like on Twitter or X as it's called now? Do you ever do the pitch wars, or, they have the hashtags, Pit Mad, Faith Pit, or Pit Dark,
Yes,
or have you done
right.
any of
I have never done those. I'm
them?
aware of them. I know people have done them. You've done them, right? No?
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but
Yeah. So because I decided there's nothing wrong with those if you find those helpful, and why not? They're there. You can, do your pitches. And if you can't create a log line, a 1 sentence pitch line for your book, you need to make sure you can do that. So that's your warning, authors. If you've got some manuscripts that you're trying to pitch, go back and try. And if you don't have that line that succinctly describes your plot and draws people in, you need to do that work. So think about that. It's got to fit like basically in a tweet, right?
Okay.
Even if you're not doing pitch wars.
For my first book, it was The Devil Wears Prada meets a Wisconsin Supper Club. And that was
Perfect.
the best way that I could describe this idea of a fashion model retiring and moving back to her hometown, and incorporating Wisconsin elements into it. And
Yeah.
if you don't like that, if the Midwest isn't your vibe, if you're more of a big city person, like a big city vibe, a big city read, then this book probably wouldn't be for you. So I just wanted my reader to understand where it was coming from. So what's your log line for the book you're pitching?
Oh, you're gonna put me on the spot here.
No, you don't have to. You don't. You gotta
Um,
ask that. We'll just cut the time.
no, you know what I'll do? I have it, but like now at the moment, I'm thinking, can I actually repeat it verbatim? I'll put the official one somewhere in the material so you can see that I actually do have my act together. Thank you very much. So, yeah, so we'll see where this goes. I mean, I'm going to keep submitting to, and I know so many of the agents that aren't open right now because they close for December will be opening up in January. So my first week of January is going to be relatively busy. I just want to get those manuscripts in, knowing they're probably going to get a flood of them, right? The first week of January.
Well, okay, so that leads me to this other idea. Do you think that the best times to query are January to June and then September to October? That's kind
Yes.
of, is that the general rule?
Yes, and I think November's okay too, but just be patient because I mean a lot of these agents get hundreds, I mean potentially like a day, right? So there's a lot to slog through. Now many of them use Query Tracker, which makes it a little easier for them to keep track. Actually I kind of like Query Tracker from the writer perspective
Mhm.
because it's
Yeah.
very linear. And they ask for the query letter here, the synopsis here if they ask for the synopsis, the comps go here. It's all a fill-in form. So it's very you don't ever wonder if you've done anything right or wrong, I
You
should say.
write it first in a Word document and then put it into the form.
Always. And then spell check the heck out of that thing over and Word and make sure. And I've made this mistake too, like where you adjust that first paragraph and you really got to double check when you're like editing within something that you've looked at so many times. You don't see like I had, oh, terrible me. This is confession time today. I had a missing connecting word. I think it was like the or
Yeah,
to or I don't know. Hopefully the agent that got that one just kind of read over that missing connecting word.
I know, I know. I've done it so many times. You
And
send
I'm
out
like,
an email and
I
then you
was
go
so
to
sad.
reread it.
And I went back then the next day to query somebody new, or then I adjusted that paragraph and I was like, no, no. So,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? It
What do you
happens.
mean?
Do your
You
best.
just, you just hope that you have written the heck out of it so that they can overlook that one little
Yeah,
typo or the one,
yes,
transposed word or something. And you
it
just go,
happens.
or else
But
you go,
yeah,
okay, on to the next.
but I agree with you. Summertime's tricky. If you
Okay.
submit in the summertime, just be prepared to wait until
Yeah.
people are kind of back in their offices. Not that they don't read in the summer, but they're probably catching up from the stuff that got submitted in the spring.
Yeah.
So there's a lag. There's a lag there. Now, there's a caveat as well here. I've gotten some answers back very, very quickly. I've got requests for fulls very, very quickly. There's agents who are very on top of their inbox. And there's others that, are methodical and it just takes a few weeks and you will get an answer. It's an interesting industry, the whole process of, like, please like me. It's, kind of like the lunch table in school. Please, can I join your lunch table?
That is so true. And you and I talked a little bit beforehand about what is the agent's purpose? Do they have a mission for the work they want to present to publishing houses? Do they have a particular point of view that they want to advance? Do they just have a general point of view about a good book and a good story? Those are kind of two different things. And you could be maybe in one camp or the other, I don't know. But you have to understand who you're pitching to and understand what their motivation is. And manuscript wish list. Did you go there and look
Oh,
too?
yes. And then not every agent uses manuscript wish list. Process wise, yeah. Twitter, I sometimes check Twitter just to see because even though there's a lot of angst and should we use Twitter, should we not? It's still a hub for publishing information. Maybe that'll change in the future, but right now a lot of agents are on Twitter. I go there sometimes just to double check what they're saying about the publishing world. You learn things. Are there new interviews that they've posted, that give you some insight? But manuscript wish list is just gold. It's wonderful because it lays out effectively what they're looking for in every genre that they take and it gives other caveats like are they looking for underrepresented writers, do I fit what they're looking for?
Right. And
And
some of them are so, I have to admit, they're way above my head. I've got a master's degree, but they're like, I don't know what you're saying. It's almost like some movie reviews, they're so, intellectually advanced beyond what this, Wisconsinite can really understand that I'm like, okay, yeah, we're not a fit.
no,
I
no,
understand what you just wrote.
well, and sometimes that's it, they're looking for something and you're reading it and you're like, well, that's not my book and I'm not even sure
No,
what book would
it's
I
just
even would
Like
fit that. Like it's a,
literary fiction meets, outer space meets, historical. I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not in there.
it makes you laugh sometimes and you're like, yeah, no, the other thing though, I do check too, is that they don't have anything, I also make sure that they're not representing one of my comps
Right.
because they're not going to want probably something that's that similar.
That's right. You hope that they're going to serve the clients that they signed on. They're going to, be their biggest cheerleader in terms of reaching out to publishing houses. And so they're probably not going to want to bring on a direct competitor. I would
Well,
guess.
and if anybody disagrees, put in the comments because we'd love to know if you have seen where agents take on people that write similar things and it's effective. But my gut reaction is they probably don't want clients that are too similar because that makes it really hard to market and you're like, competing against yourself at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I would
So,
assume, but again, I could be wrong on that one.
but I do agree. There's a lot of agents out there and publishing houses that are very, they're being very particular about what they bring in for their lists. They're looking for things that make a social impact. They're looking for underrepresented audiences, and that has a really, really wide range
Mhm.
of types of people or underrepresented authors. What it really comes down to, though, is money
Yeah.
and whether or not they think they can sell this book and it's marketable.
Right.
Yeah.
And, I like to think that I give myself a leg up because I write my log line, I write my short description, I write my long description, and I write a one-page synopsis. And it took me a long time to be able to write that material. But I have to say, I'm getting good at it. And
Uh,
so if anybody has any questions, can you give me a one-page synopsis? Yep, here it is. I mean, sometimes I write it before the book, you know.
well, that if you can do that, then you're writing, basically you're using your synopsis as an outline. And if you make different decisions, which we sometimes do as we write, it's a very easy edit.
Right.
So people love to hate synopses. We get all angsty and weird about them and, oh, they take so much time. So you'll appreciate that I have a 2-page synopsis. I have tried and tried and tried to bring that thing down so that I could do a 1-page. So I reverse engineered it the other day because I needed a 1-pager.
You.
So you know how your query letter has the body paragraphs about your story. So one or two, maybe one longer or two shorter paragraphs that give the important parts of your story, but not the ending. You don't do that in the query. You use it's like a teaser copy in a way. I reverse engineered it. So I took those bits from my query letter and I thought, what's missing? Because of course you need the ending. I was able to get it down to a page. It took
Good for you.
so long though. And why did I not think of that before?
I don't know. Sometimes you just have to go through the painful process and then come out the other side.
It's just, and you need sometimes a partner who has read the book, who
Yeah,
isn't as maybe obsessed as we are about our own subplots,
right.
because subplots probably in a 1-pager, you can't use those subplots. You have
You
to
can't
just
fill it with too many names either,
no, you just and that was it. I took out so many names. The synopsis was better for it, but it's a hard thing to do, and it's always nice to have eyes. A beta reader who's also an author who
Yeah.
knows your story can be a really good partner for synopsis edit.
I went to, in the painful process of learning how to do this, I went to a conference and the instructor looked at my work and it was too long and it was too wordy. And she red penned it and she goes, nobody cares about this. And she in front of the whole room, right? And I was like, but she was right. And it took that and it took another instructor to tear apart my first page and say, no, XYZ, no. And it wasn't fun, but it's like an athlete, training their muscles and being sore the next day and trying again. And you just keep doing that because as a writer, if you're going to pitch agents, if you're going to write back page copy, if you're going to write blurbs, if you're going to try and sell it, you need all of that. You need the one-line
Yes,
description. You need to know what
yes.
your book is. You need to know how you need that one-page synopsis. Whether you like it or not, you need it.
Oh, for sure. Nobody likes doing them. But you're right. I like the idea of writing it ahead of time and then going back and seeing where you need to tweak once you're done writing the book. The other thing that I find helpful is if you can summarize along the way what happens in each chapter. You have a really long synopsis then, but it is something that you can use as the base document to edit down to the shorter,
Well,
synopsis.
and I've had contests that want the chapter by chapter description, like the one sentence that describes this
Oh,
chapter.
sure. So they can see how
I
you
wanted that.
progress. They're looking for pacing at that point, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I don't do that per se, but I could if I had to. If there was a particular contest that I wanted to enter and it needed it, I would do it. And then also just for your own beat sheets, you need
Yes.
that if you're
Yes.
doing that. So, there's a benefit to it. Does it take time? Yes, absolutely. But in the
Oh, for sure.
pantsers of the world who are listening, the pantsers are going to say, I don't need to. I write by the seat of my pants and I can go quicker that way. And then I go back and edit. Good for you if that's the way you do it, whatever
Yeah.
works.
I mean, at some point this year, I think we'll talk a little bit about mystery writing too. And I like to say I'm a pantser, but I'm a reform pantser, I guess. I mean, not that pantsers have to reform, but at this point, if I write in my series that's already out, I have so many things already, set in stone that I have to go with, right, as my basis. I did some pantsing with the YA mystery, but then I learned my lesson because my editing was a bear
Yes.
because of that. And I ended up doing, and I've never done this before, I did index cards with each chapter because I have 3 points of view. And I wasn't really sure where to thread those in. And I did that whole lay it all out on the carpet kind of thing and got down on my hands and knees and moved things around. So I have that. It's not typed out, but it's in an index card, format of what's in each chapter.
Good for
So
you, because I give you so much credit for trying to do multi points of view. I've never been able to master that,
it was
but
fun.
oh,
It was fun. It was fun. You know what? There was something wrong with the book, and we can talk two more. When we actually spent that all last year talking about plotting, it was what was missing. It was the secret sauce. So when I realized that what I needed to do was to add this other point of view, it made the story better. So
really?
it did.
You had to thread, was it finished and then you went back and threaded in the different
I
characters?
was probably three-quarters of the way through. And I had another point of view that was sort of very, very short, like mysterious, like a watcher person that we didn't know. And there was something
I
that
know
was
who that is.
you do.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so it wasn't gelling, right? It wasn't gelling. I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Anyway, so that's always a fun thing, right? When you figure it out and you can fix it. I mean, sometimes it takes a while to figure out how to fix your manuscript. So, but
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like you, I'm a reformed pantser. I
yeah.
learned my lesson, had to go back and change.
And really outlining can be very, very different for different people. And it can be very loose where you just kind of know the beginning and you know the ending and you know like sort of the climatic moment, what's going to happen, but you've got all that bits to fill in. And other people are incredible outliners. We'll see where this all goes. I mean, the whole agent search thing is an interesting place to be. Are you still searching? Are you firmly going to move forward with independent publishing for everything? Or what are you doing?
No, no. I've got, the mystery I think I'm going to stay indie with. I have other work that I'm pitching, and I actually have a screenplay that did very well. So that actually, you know, what has been picked up for actually review by a couple production houses. So that's, I'm crossing my fingers on that. And so I'm just very happily kind of this year, 2024, I'm just going to keep writing, create my own little world, update my website, and keep doing what I'm doing. And I think I love it. I'm adapting some of my print work for screen. So because I want to have two versions, which is taking up a lot of time, but it's also a lot of fun and very motivating. And
I
so
gotta admit it.
it is. And you get to the
Yes.
keyboard and you just start writing and you don't stop. All of a sudden you look around like time doesn't exist and it's been 2 hours. So I'm
Lovely.
really, really enjoying that. And then I have to say, I just found this out like yesterday that Model Suspect got honorable mention for mystery from Royal Dragonfly. And then I was honorable mention for new writer. So I
Oh,
got,
nice.
new two more awards, which was fabulous to hear. So.
I think your writing's very cinematic, and I can picture Model
Oh,
Suspect as I think it'd be awesome on the screen. It
Oh,
was
thank
so much fun. I mean, in our minds, we're picturing this location, Cinnamon, Wisconsin.
you. Yes.
I just love
Yeah,
that.
little
So,
quintessential touristy fun town.
but I can picture cinnamon because, we've got some cinnamons around here. They're not called cinnamon, but
No, and if you've ever been to Galena, Illinois, you might, or Cedarburg, you might see some.
recognize cinnamon.
Yeah.
I think you already write like that, so I can see a transition being very, very interesting to get into that, screenplay format, script format. So,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love doing it. I love dialogue. So if you can handle your dialogue, it's a lot easier to put that down as a screenplay or a TV pilot if you
right,
have your strong dialogue there. That I have to
right.
say that helps. That really helps.
Yeah,
So,
because it's all just talk, talk, talk. I mean, it's, that's what that looks like. And all that other stuff is the decision. I mean, you can put your notes in what the setting is, the scene is, and whatever, but all of that is going to be at the discretion of the director, right?
right. Right. You have your, you've got a scene heading, you've got action, and you've got some parentheticals, right? But for the most part, the dialogue is carrying it. So, and that's just what I happen to love dialogue. So.
Right,
So
right.
I'm listening when you're talking. I'm listening in. No, I'm just kidding.
We all are.
Well,
Careful what you
great,
say at coffee shops because there's probably a writer somewhere listening to you.
for sure. So what's your next steps for the agent search?
Next steps are waiting until, so we're recording this, you all are seeing this the third week of January. By the time you're seeing this, I will have gone through and found every agent who reopened in January, and I will have submitted to them, which hopefully will have added 15-ish, maybe new submissions into the queue. And then I will wait and see what happens. I will not submit to editors until I am probably, like looking at publishing houses directly, until I am at least 3 months past, so or April to May.
Okay,
I'll give people that long. Again, if it takes you longer than that to get through your submission pile, we're not the right fit.
right.
Um, because again, not getting any younger here.
Have
So
have you looked at the publishers you're considering to submit? If you don't go by an agent and you choose the publishing houses, have you checked their submission windows to see?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and I will, and there are some submission windows that I may have to submit before, ideally before that time frame that I just said, the April, May.
and then
Uh,
have you looked at some contests that take unpublished manuscripts or?
I have, and I've submitted to one. I've
Oh,
submitted
you
to
did? Oh,
Yeah, I
good.
submitted
Oh,
to
wonderful.
Killer Nashville, the Claymore Award, I think it's called. I think I've got the right one there. They won't even announce who the finalists are until April.
Yeah.
So in that conference, I think they announce the winner at the conference. So in April, I might even see if I'm long listed,
Oh,
you know.
I'm gonna wish
So
you so much good luck with that.
but that's not a bad point. I should look for more of those too, because it's nice validation that you can then add into your query if you're getting some attention from a contest. Anything you can do to point out that what you've written is being well received by other
Right,
people.
and I was not aware of that when I was doing Model Suspect. I decided to go indie with it. I didn't know there were contests that would take unpublished manuscripts or
Right.
first chapters or something like that. So I did, and it won too. It won in RWA, and then Southwest Writers, it won something.
Right.
So and that just boosts its credentials to readers and to potential agents. So, don't overlook those opportunities when they come along. Yes, you do have to be forward thinking and find them because their deadlines come and go, and you've got to have a polished manuscript ready to submit. But it's still worth your time a little bit, I would think, to try it.
Oh, I think so, for sure. And it never hurts. All of us, there's so many books out there. And so anytime you can just show that other people liked your work, it's the same thing with reviews. Then people trust just a little more. If they don't know you, they don't know your writing yet. So
Right.
it's a way to introduce yourself with some credential gravitas, I guess, more than someone who doesn't have anything going yet.
Well,
So
I'm so glad you chose to share your journey finding an agent because it's a painful one and it's done
mhm.
mostly in private and it's a lot of rejection. And I thank you so much for sharing that with us because, you know, there by the grace of God go I, right?
Well, that's
We've
that's
all
it.
been there.
That's
And
it.
you sharing it, the good and the bad, it's like losing weight, right? It's like stepping on that scale and saying, okay, I had a good week or I didn't have so good a week, and here's the truth. So thank you for doing that
I
for
don't know
all.
if I'm going to share that journey, but I will share the agent journey. We'll see. The thing is, other writers need to know what this looks like, what this feels like, because I think we feel alone in when we're doing these things with the ups and downs, and it can be emotional. I feel like I'm a tough cookie most of the time, but there are weeks where I've had so many rejections, and you just get a little beaten down by it. And if you know other people who have been in this game for a while feel the same way, it just kind of helps you understand that it's not you. You're good. You're good.
Well, thanks, literally, thank you so much, because I've been there. I know other writers who've been there. One of our friends she and I wrote an article about rejection, and she got 5 within like an hour and a half. She submitted her, and one day they all came like right at the same time. And,
Oh,
you know,
evil,
yeah,
evilness, and
yeah,
just randomness too, because of course no one knows that you're getting other ones in your inbox. It's just the way it worked.
it was just the way it worked. And we just all had that empty moment of like kick in the gut rejection. And then you get up, you brush yourself off, and you keep going.
That's it. That's it. And I think we're talking about like, grit or moxie, or I don't know what it is exactly, but you got to dig deep some days, because there's days you just really want to curl up with a, cocoa and a book and a blankie. So, and that's okay too.
It's okay too. And oh, one thing I wanted to mention, I picked up this Wisconsin
Oh,
2024
lovely.
Wisconsin
Yes.
Poet Calendar, because I wanted to read more poetry, because I just feel it moves me, and it's a way to use few words to convey emotions. And so I picked up this from Books and Company in Oconomowoc, the
Oh, it's beautiful.
2024 Wisconsin Poets Calendar by the Wisconsin Fellowship of Poets. And it's just a calendar, and then they have poetry on either.
Oh, that's so lovely. And so it's the Wisconsin, did you say Fellowship of Poets?
Yeah. It's
Okay,
the
cool.
2024 calendar, and it's just a way to keep track of your days and then get a little more poetry into your
We'll
life.
put a link to that in case anyone else is interested in it. We'll make sure there's a link to that in the information about the
Great,
podcast.
great.
Cool. Hey, we did it. Thanks for joining us for the first podcast. And we really hope you come. We really hope y'all come back and subscribe. And we're going to do 9 of them this year. We're going to have a couple months where we take some breaks for vacation and such, but there'll be probably 9 a year. And if this goes well, we'll just keep doing it. We obviously have some fun together. So
Yes.